For me, it's always been about just putting that first foot forward and trying something. And that's the only way you're really going to figure out what works and what doesn't. And more over the last several years, I've gotten better at that. And my kind of motto for everything I do here is never stop exploring and just try doing new things all the time.
You may know Sam of Uncharted Customs from his very popular series on Instagram, Will It Laser, where he takes all different items and puts them in his Thunder Nova 35 to see what kind of results he can get. But you may not be familiar with how he started his business, where he focuses on custom signature pieces. He didn't start that way, and we talked a lot in this conversation about how he got to where he is. We also talked about pricing and encouragement for those of you who are just starting out. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. Welcome. This is Sam from Uncharted Customs. So why don't you introduce yourself to everyone and tell us a little bit about your current business?
My name's Sam. Uncharted Customs is my business. I more or less create 3D custom signs, but also do a lot of different things like laser engravings on various products and just spread myself wherever I can. I enjoy putting all kinds of stuff in the laser and seeing what happens.
Yes, you are famous for your Will It Laser series. How did that get started?
When I first got my Thunder, I was coming over from a Glowforge, which is very restrictive. But when I got the Thunder, I was just looking at different ways to not only create content that was entertaining, but also educational. And I had seen some other content throughout the years, not necessarily with lasers, but different people in different industries will it bake or cook or things like that, putting things together that normally don't go somewhere and seeing what happens. And I thought that was really cool. And so I decided to just start it, and it's become one of people's favorite things. So I continue doing it every week. I'm coming up on week 40 of Will It Laser, so we're almost a year in. I'm not quite sure how long I'll be able to keep it going, but it's been quite the adventure. People really seem to enjoy it, and I enjoy learning, and then it ends up being something that a lot of times you can use down the road that you didn't know you could do.
Talk to me about how long have you been in business, and have you always had a laser in your business?
Yes, so the laser is actually what started this on
Okay.
accident. We just go back to the pandemic, which I think a lot of people started something during that time when they were at home. It was May of 2020, and we were just at home, not going to work, not going out. And my wife and I had a newborn at the time, and or not newborn, but smaller baby. And we would put her down at night and really not have anything to do. For me, I'm a big sports fan. There was no sports going on, there was just nothing happening. So I've always had this entrepreneurial bug in me, and I've never done anything that stuck. And so I was always seeing these different advertisements and people on social media with the Glowforge and how easy it was to just make things. So I was like to my wife, we should buy one of these and just have fun. We have the funds that we could do it, and we could create a small page and maybe make a few things for family and friends, and we would recoup the money eventually, not a super big deal. And she said no, absolutely not. And then after a little while, I came back with a different plan. This is how we can use it. This is how we can make our money back. And eventually, after a couple weeks, she said, okay, let's do it. So we did, and we got it. And we started making really small acrylic keychains and just little trinkets here and there. Created an Instagram page and a Facebook page, and eventually put a few things on Etsy, something that we were just not accustomed to at all. And then it went from there. I started following other people that did different things, and eventually decided I wanted to make something for myself to see if I could do it. I saw people making these stacked like 3D signs, and I was like, that's really cool. I'm pretty limited in the size that I have here, but I'm going to give it a try. So I gave it a try on something that was about 8 inches around. I actually still have it. and I hand painted everything, and it was very thin out of just 1/8 inch MDF. And I posted it, and someone said, "I really like that. Can you do that for me, but bigger?" And I thought, I don't know, but I'll try. And so that kind of started the sign making. That caused me to get out of our basement at the time where the laser was and go into the garage and try to figure out how to make something like that bigger because I had zero experience with anything, with lasers, with tools in general. Like I'd never really used anything outside of your household drill and what you would have your essentials for your home. Never used saws, never used anything in my whole life. It's just not was not me. And that kind of turned and I ended up buying a a router and a couple other tools just to get me started in making rounds, and it just kept going and I really found myself enjoying it. I was never one of those people that was creative really at all. I can't draw to save my life. I was not a drawer, painting or anything like that. So it was really all new to me, but it was opening this door of a little bit of creativity and allowing me to design things on the computer, which I knew I was capable of, but never really dove into either. So it just bloomed from that. And then by the end of 2020, just a few months later, we're talking about 7 months. By the end of 2020, I quit my full time job, said I want to do this full time. So January 1 of 21 is when I officially launched Uncharted Customs as a full time business.
Okay.
So I'm in year 3 now of full time doing this, and since then I moved from our old house in the basement in my one stall garage to where we live now and to my shop that I have here, which is about 600 square feet or so.
Do you have two Thunders now?
I have one Thunder. I got rid of the Glowforge almost immediately after getting the Thunder just because I didn't have a use for it anymore. It was just night and day difference. Obviously, it's much, much larger and faster. Got rid of that, but I do have a small fiber laser, and then I have Onefinity CNC in the shop as well. So, a few different machines that I utilize.
Yeah. You have the big Thunder. You have the 51.
I have a 35.
You didn't go all the way in with the 51 130.
I would have had I thought I could fit it through the door.
Yeah.
That was my biggest concern. I do have double doors here in my shop, and I suppose I probably could have made it happen, but where my double doors are is about 2.5 feet off the ground outside, and there's no steps or anything like that. It's just because my shop is built up off the ground and the entrance is on the other side. So we had to get quite a few of us just to lift this up and fit it in the way it actually sits. So having to
Yeah.
probably maneuver something vertically, that's 1,000 pounds, probably wouldn't have worked so well. But I never say never. Maybe one day, never know where it's gonna take me. I did not imagine that I would be here 3 years ago, even when I decided to do this. Yeah, it's crazy. You never really know where you're gonna go.
So when you took the business full time, your business is a little bit more complex than what I would say most people are probably getting into because a lot of people are doing similar things over and over with maybe some customization, personalization, but you do
Right.
fully custom. So did you know you wanted to do that? How did that all work?
Yeah, so nothing has been planned. That's the easiest way to say it. I have not planned any of this. This starting and me deciding that I loved it was not planned. It just happened with that initial purchase and it snowballed. So I don't know where it's going to go and I let it take me there. And the way I guess it came about is that very first sign that I made for myself was very small, but people asked me to start making similar things for their man caves or their homes. And so it was a lot along that lines first. So it was very things that were repeatable that a lot of people are doing. And then over time, the more content I put out there, or maybe the first one or two business signs that I did for some people that I knew personally, I don't know if that just hit the right people and they saw it that also owned businesses, but there was a significant shift, especially when I moved here and got my a bigger shop. I saw a lot more corporate business than someone that's just their homeowner looking for something in their house. And what I've found is I really enjoy doing those bigger projects. I would rather do one really big project than 10 small ones. And putting a lot of time and effort into making that a signature piece of wherever it's going. And I'll still do the one-offs here and there. I still make signs for weddings and different people's homes and smaller stuff. So I'll take those on when I see that it fits with timing. But I know there's a lot of other people that also do those, and I'm always if it's something that I don't necessarily have time for or don't want to get into, I know there's plenty of people out there that I can send that to
Yeah.
that I've come close to. So I do that quite often as well, but I really do enjoy those bigger statement pieces, and that's where it's just shifted on its own. And then so the more that I've done those, the more I have people reaching out for those types of things. So it's it could be different a year from now. I have no idea.
Knowing that you started from not knowing anything about all of this, what are the steps you took to gain confidence? Spray painting alone is complicated, in sealing things, in feeling good that end product was going to hold up over time
Yeah.
and that you were going to feel great about it. What were those steps?
Yeah, so I've had a personal transformation through this whole business process. Now, like I said, I've always wanted to do my own thing and knew that I wanted to do my own thing. I just never knew what that was going to be. And there's been numerous things over the years from when I was in college till now that I had tried that either worked, but I just didn't really have a passion for, or didn't work at all. And I just stopped doing it. But for me, it's always been about just putting that first foot forward and trying something, and that's the only way you're really going to figure out what works and what doesn't. And more over the last several years, I've gotten better at that. And my kind of motto for everything I do here is never stop exploring and just try doing new things all the time. And that lends itself to the Will It Laser and things that I still do on a weekly basis. As far as going through learning how, especially how to paint, that's can be a nightmare for anyone. I had my fair share of struggles. I watched other people and that were successful at it and asked questions and learned a lot from them. And then from that, I also over the last several years have made my own way. I've taken everything that people have lent me, their knowledge and stuff that I've watched and read, and then I've made it my own. I think for painting specifically, it comes down to, for me, it's product. I use one specific line of product, and that's the MTN line, and it has worked really well for me. Now, that's not readily available at Walmart or Home Depot or wherever. You can't just go grab it. It's something you have to order. And so I know why a lot of people don't use it. It's probably just a little bit more expensive. But over time, like I said, I've shifted into this higher end statement pieces. And so I want to make sure that I get it right, that my time is spent correctly, and that the product is higher quality. So I think there's a place for all of it. If you're making something that's more repeatable and that maybe is not as a higher end cost, you maybe don't want to use the highest end materials because then you're shorting yourself. But I think that just doing it, to answer your question, just getting in there and doing it. If you struggling with paint, take 5 different brands of spray paint, try the same process on them and see what you like best, what you like, what you don't like, where you have to go back and fix mistakes. And it's all about that time management and seeing what works best for you, because if you can use a cheaper paint, but the process takes twice as long, whether you and then you could spend $1 more per can of spray paint and it takes 50% of the time,
Yeah.
it's probably worth it to spend $1 more per can than wasting the time that's needed to save money,
Yeah.
because you're not really.
Yeah.
So it's all about just doing. There's no real
No.
way around it. I think experience doing something is it trumps everything. There's nothing that can beat it, because you can watch as many people as you want, but until you actually do it yourself, you'll never know.
Yeah. As you were starting to get into these more statement pieces, talk to me about pricing. Was that something that came easy to you, that you were like, I know my value, I know what this should be, or was it something that you've figured out over time?
People ask me a lot about pricing, and it's never going to be set. And I don't think that it should be for anyone. One, the price of things change all the time. At this point in time, they're always going up. So there's not really anything that you can do to necessarily lock that in, because your cost of living goes up, your cost of materials goes up, your skill set gets better.
Yep.
And I think you need to take all of those things into consideration when you do pricing. It's really funny. I had this little book, and I still have it from the very first time we got our Glowforge, and people were saying like, "Hey, can you make me these keychains? Hey, can you make me this little plaque?" And I'm writing down, and I'm like, "Wow, okay, how much do I charge them?" And then I would write it down. I'm like, "Okay, I'll charge you $15 for this." And I still have that, and every so often when I'm flipping through it and I go back to the very beginning, I'm like, "Wow, I did not know what I was doing. I was literally just doing this for free." So, it's really funny because those signs that I was doing, even the very first man cave signs I was doing, I'm looking at them now and I'm like, "Oh, I charged $70 for that," and I felt really bad that I was doing that. I was like, "Man, they don't wanna spend that much." And now I'm like, I wouldn't charge less than a few $100 for that, just because not the exact same product, because I'm much, much better at what I do now, but just looking back, it's crazy how much you learn, again, just by doing. And I say to everyone, my advice to everyone is, don't look at something and say, "This is a 24-inch sign, it should be X amount of dollars," because size really doesn't have a whole lot to do with it.
Right.
You, of course, have your material cost, but unless it's a material that's very high in cost, it's going to be relatively low. The size of it doesn't matter. It's all about the time that you're putting into it. And I tell people, charge for your time. You're not going to be able to do and get it exactly, because if you're quoting someone, you don't know exactly how long it's going to take. But if you think you've got this, for me, if I've got this statement piece and I think this is going to take me 12 hours to work on it, I my estimate. So I'm going to take my rendering of it and say it's going to take this much material. I know how much that costs. Now, here's my rate for 12 hours of work. Now, I can do it and be done in 10, or I could be done in 15 because something else happened. And so you'll never get it probably spot on, but the more you do it, the better you're going to get at that guessing game. And most likely things are going to even out over time. So that's my number one advice to people when pricing is, charge for your time, because when you charge by size, I could make something that is this big that takes so long because it has 100 pieces. And then I can also make something that's 5 feet long that has 10 pieces that I can do very quickly. Now, again, you want to make sure that you're charging for those materials in that size, especially when it comes to scale. But time is probably the most important thing, because time is the only resource we as humans have that we cannot get more of.
Yep.
Once our time is up, it's out, it's over. And we all have different lives that we're living. Some of us have a lot of time to do this during the day, some of us do it part time, some of us do it for fun. You got to take that in consideration too. And that is what can be your rate. So if you really need this as a career, like it's my career, my rate may be higher than someone that does it for fun, that might do it on the weekends. I'll get your project done in a week, whereas the person doing it on the weekend, it might be a month because they work on it for a few hours. So everyone's going to be a little bit different. We all live in different socioeconomical environments. So my cost of living is different than someone's cost of living in New York City or Chicago or LA or anywhere that's bigger. And it might be, my cost of living might be more than someone that's very rural. So you got to consider all of those things and how much your time to you is worth. How much do you want to make? Now, the market will probably tell you whether you are worth that much or not, but that is something that you just, again, have to do and see how it's reacted to.
Was there a point in time when you knew that this was going to be something you were able to do full time? And if so, what was that moment that you were like, yes, I'm good?
I don't think there was a moment that was like, I'm good, but knowing that I wanted to do something for a very long time, I was always a serial saver. Like, even when I was working, I would just save money because I knew one day I wanted to do my own thing. And so I had quite a bit of money saved up to kind of weather the storm, so to speak, if something were to not work. And I do highly recommend that, especially if you know you want to do something in the long run. Start saving now, cut back in certain areas that may be not necessarily needed. And it doesn't have to be a lot. But I probably built up a good year's worth of what I was used to in my salary to know that I could just completely make nothing and my family wasn't going to suffer. We weren't going to be broke. And so when I decided that I wanted to do it full time, again, a conversation I had with my wife, I said, listen, we've got this money set aside. I really want to do this. And if it doesn't work out, we'll be okay for quite a while. If I made $0, which I'm already confident that it won't be zero, but even if it takes me time to build up, we'll be just fine. And that's one reason why I was pretty comfortable taking that leap. I'm a calculated risk taker, and I have been my whole life. I don't just jump into something without a plan, but I will take the risk to do something knowing that it well could not work out. So just knowing that I had a really strong passion for this when I was getting into it, and knowing that with a lot more time and effort and not just the time I had after work or on the weekends, that I could build it into something much bigger, which has now happened and continues to grow. There wasn't that just like moment, but it's something that I had been waiting for and planning for.
Let's switch gears and talk about content creation because you have almost a
Okay.
whole other job of content creation.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about, was that intentional to grow the business, or was it just something that you enjoyed doing and it has done quite well? You have a huge following on Instagram. You're doing quite well on social media by the numbers standards.
So, believe it or not, those that have probably followed me from like the very beginning probably know that I was not all about the social media at all. I honestly, I never liked it at all. I was very not into social media beforehand, and I was very weary of putting myself out there on camera, and it was weird at first. I remember just being in my single stall garage that I had taken over from our car and just filming myself and not really liking it at all, just being really awkward about it. I was just not that kind of person, but I knew that it was necessary to push myself forward to attach a human to the business. I think a lot of people definitely resonate with a face more than just product pictures and videos and things like that. So I knew that it was important. I worked in sales and marketing pretty much my whole career before this. So I knew those things, but it was just not me. So now I look back on that again and I just do that every single day and it's comfortable and I talk to myself with a phone all day, every day and share what I'm doing and it's just normal. But 3 years ago, I would have told you you were crazy if you would have told me you have all these people following you and looking to you for advice and enjoying your content. I would have just been like, that's no, that's not me. I'm not that person. And again, here we are. Things do change. And I do put quite a bit of work into the content I make. A lot of what I do on Instagram now is shifted towards other people, other makers, and learning. I really enjoy teaching what I'm doing and sharing that. So I do sacrifice time making to set up filming and to plan out a lot of what I'm doing. If I only worked and didn't film anything, I would have so much more
Yeah.
things done. But I do enjoy that, and I enjoy, like I said, teaching others. I think that that fulfills me, so I choose to do that. And I think that's another reason why I've been able to grow, because not just because the Will It Laser, but because I do those sort of things every week, and I share in my daily stories what I'm doing and different products that I use and tips on how to do these things. People come back to that and want to see more of it. And so I would say that Instagram does bring me some business, but I like to use that as more of a content platform to teach others. So that's also been a very big shift from the beginning. Just taking what was strictly I'm selling product to here's how I'm doing it.
What's your favorite thing that you do every day in your business? Or not every day, just what's your favorite thing you do in your business?
My favorite thing to do, honestly, I think it just comes back to what I just said is helping other people. I get a lot of messages daily, sometimes from people I've been talking to for years, and sometimes the very first message someone has sent to me. And typically, when I see that, I don't just drop everything to answer a question within 30 seconds. But if I'm available and taking a break or whatnot, I enjoy having those conversations with people. And again, it doesn't necessarily go back to a business. That's not something I do for my business. I guess it's probably something I do for me internally, and maybe more for myself as a brand, maybe a just reliable, trustworthy, something like that. But I really enjoy those conversations I have with people, and just when they come back to me and say, hey, I tried that, or hey, you pushed me to do something new, or I did it, those things really fulfill me. As far as the day-to-day business, I think the thing that I enjoy most about having my own business, not necessarily a task, is that it's mine, and that no one can tell me what to do, when to do it, type thing. I worked for all the years prior to this in sales and marketing, and I was never the person in charge, although I was at some point higher up. There was always people above me, and with this, there's not. It's just me. And that can be a double-edged sword, that you're all alone and you're responsible for everything, but also that I can leave whenever I want, and I can stop whenever I want. I can start whenever I want. I'm literally 50 feet away from my house in my backyard, and I can go in and see my family or whatever. I can go to their events, the kids that they have stuff going on, or whatever it is. That's I get the most enjoyment about the freedom of having my own business.
That's awesome. I love that too. What is your least favorite thing?
My least favorite thing is when I spend hours and hours on something, send it to them, and UPS breaks it.
Ooh,
That is literally the worst. It doesn't happen all the time, but it is. I get this punch in my gut every time I get a message from somebody that I've just shipped something to. And sometimes I can see it up on my phone. I'll have an email or an Instagram message, and it says, sent you a message. And I just don't want to look, because I'm like, sometimes they say, this is amazing and I love you and everything you did. And then sometimes it's, look what they did to my package. It's the box is destroyed, the inside is destroyed. So that is the worst feeling. And again, it doesn't happen all the time, but I've had my fair share of damages, and those are things that aren't my fault at all, because I take packaging pretty seriously, but it's also something that I have to fix,
yeah.
even though it's not my fault. So I've had some that are minor damages that I've tried to help the customer fix from afar. And then there's some that I've just redone the entire thing. Now, I do put insurance on those packages. And so I've been fortunate enough that most of the time those claims have worked out for me. But the problem is, when you insure the package, like UPS, they are the judge and the jury. So they get to decide whether it was their fault or not. Luckily, they've come through most times, but sometimes they leave you holding the bag and say that they didn't do it, even though everybody knows they did. But that's probably the my least favorite moment. Now you can once those packages are delivered, you can get the really good moment when they love it and everything is great. So it's that very last step of when they receive the package that could go so well or so wrong.
Where do you find inspiration?
All over on Instagram from everyone else that's doing and making, seeing what they're doing. I'm a big believer in supporting everyone else that not only has supported me, but just being out there and interacting with people's content and seeing what they're doing. There's probably not very many days that go by that I'm not also looking at what other people are doing and thinking, man, that's a really good idea, or that's really something I want to try. And it goes back to me wanting to try everything. I will literally try anything. So when I see that, sometimes I'll write it down and try to get to it when I can. I've got a pretty big running list of things that have inspired me that I have done nothing with, but that just comes down to time. And then I think just my everyday life, whether it's my children or something I see on TV, something I see when we're out to dinner, I can see something and think that would be cool if I did this in a different way. So I try to find inspiration everywhere. I think back to a piece that I made four of them, and it was just the words "don't quit," but then the NT and the D, or the "don't quit," the NT and the QU were crossed out, so it just says "do it," but you can see that it says "don't quit" underneath. And so I ended up doing four of those in different colors, and I took inspiration from things that I was just seeing. I did one like a crayon box. It was just all the colors because my daughter had a bunch of crayons that were sitting there, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do a multicolored one. And then there was another one where it was pink and a really distinct green, and it was because of a watermelon, and just different things that I see. Trying to think of color combinations using what's right in front of me because you can take inspiration from just about anything.
What's your best advice for first we'll do new laser owners and then for people starting a new business?
Yeah. So, new laser owners, I would just say again, what I've been saying is just try new things. Don't be afraid of failing. And I think that goes for anything, really, not just lasers, because a failure isn't mean you're defeated. It's just means you learned how not to do something and you can try it again later and do something different. So if you're stuck on settings for your laser on how to engrave something or how to cut through something, just try it multiple times. Make sure you have enough of what you're doing that you don't only have one shot, which I often do when I do my wheel laser, but just go in knowing that you're going to fail and that doesn't mean you're a failure. And put yourself out there, try making all kinds of different things because you never truly know what is going to be your favorite thing. Like I said, I started making small little trinkets and that was fine. But when I found what I found, it just took off. And you'll know when, but you may not know it yet.
Yeah. And then for laser business owners, new starting up a new business.
Yeah, I would just say be prepared, but not over prepared. Like I said, there's something to be said for having some money set aside that if you don't do something right away or it doesn't take off like you really want it to, you're not just going to crumble. But also, on the other hand, there's such thing as being or trying to be too prepared to start a business in general because there's never, ever the perfect time.
Yeah.
Something will always be going on in your life, something will always happen in your personal life that will be an excuse to not do it. So be prepared, but don't be too prepared because it will just not work out ever. Again, just to everyone that watches, just never stop exploring. That is my motto. Keep trying new things, and I promise you will find something that works awesome and amazing for you.
Where is the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, so I have Instagram, TikTok, Facebook to some degree, but mostly those two are the biggest channels, especially if you want to learn. Definitely Instagram. I also have a website for anybody that's looking to purchase anything or do some sort of customs. I also do, for other makers out there, I do help you guys with any type of laser cutting. Maybe you have a small laser that you can't do something in that you need a big piece for. Feel free to contact me and I will be happy to help get that cut for you. Or if there are certain files that you don't know how to make or don't have the ability to make, let me know and I will try to help you there as well.